On this video, I'm going to be reading the Greek text in Matthew chapter 2, and I'm going to be reading from verse 16 and following from the Greek text, parsing and doing like a running commentary. So we're looking at the birth of the Lord Jesus Christ and how we see a divine biological miracle in the virgin birth. We pick it up then after chapter 1 with the visit of the Magi, and then the flight into Egypt by Joseph taking Jesus into Egypt. And now we have the cruelty of Herod, the violence of Herod. So we pick it up after the flight into Egypt. And it's sort of like Matthew is presenting Jesus as the final Moses who goes into Egypt and then comes out of Egypt. So we pick it up at verse 16. Tate Herodes idon hate enam paikse hupaton magon esu mose leon kai apostelas anelen pantas tus paidas tus in Bethlehem, kai en passe tois horiois autes, apa dietus kai katotero, katatan kronan han he kribosin paraton magon. This is the text that is showing or that follows after the flight of Egypt, the Herod's violence toward those 2 years of age and under. So I pick it up. Tate Herodes, then Herod, idon is the aorist participle, active participle, nominative, masculine, singular, from charao. Then Herod, when he saw hate that anapikse, that he was mocked, from impaidzo, aorist indicative passive, that he was mocked, or that he was, I guess you would say, tricked or mocked, hupaton magon, by the wise men or the magi, who did not return to Herod, having been warned by the Lord. They went to in another way. Ethumose leon, he was exceedingly angry. Thumose is the aorist indicative passive third person singular from thumao. Kai apostelas anelen pantes tus paidas tus in Bethlehem, kai en passe tois horiois, autes apa de atus kai katotero. That is, it says that when he sent, apostelos is from apostello, the aorist participle nominative masculine singular from apostello. When he sent, he anelen, he killed. Anelen, Herod killed all the children, actually the children, male children, which were in Bethlehem and in all of its regions from 2 years of age and downward. Notice here, anelen is from ainareo. It is the aorist indicative active third person singular. So he killed all of the children speaking of the male children which were in Bethlehem and in all its regions from 2 years and downward, according to the time which uh, a klibosin, a klibosin, from aklibao, aorist indicative active third person singular, which he inquired from the Magi. So uh, what we're seeing here is the fulfillment again of Rachel then crying and having seen the horrible violence of Herod to the male children because he was threatened by anyone that would threaten his authority, his dictatorship. So we move on in verse 17. Tate eplerothe tachrithendia Yeremiu tu prophetu legantas. Then was fulfilled that which was spoken through Jeremiah the prophet, saying, Eplerothe is from plerao, aorist indicative passive third person singular. That which was spoken, tahrithen, again from lego, another aorist participle, then was fulfilled, nominative, was fulfilled that which was spoken, accusative, I should say, uh, then was fulfilled. I think I could take it as nominative. Nominative, accusative, singular from lego, a participle, a passive participle from lego, within, through Jeremiah the prophet, saying, legon test is your present participle, a genitive singular from lego. Phone in Roma, akuste. That is, a voice was heard in Ramah. Akuste is from akuo, aorist indicative passive third person singular. So a voice was heard in Ramah, Klausmas kai adurmas palus, weeping and much mourning. Rachel, Cliusa ta tekna autes, Rachel, weeping for her children. Cliusa is from Clio, it's the present participle, feminine nominative singular from Clio. So Rachel weeping for her children. Cliu Aethelen, and she was not willing, imperfect indicative active third person singular from Thello. Parathethenai, to be comforted. From parakaleo, the aorist passive infinitive from parakaleo. You think of the luo, luthenai, would be the aorist aorist infinitive passive. So she was not willing to be comforted, hate uk asen, because they are not. Then we move on to verse 19. Teluteisantes de tu Herodu eduangelas kuriou phainetai kat anarto Yosef in Aegypto. Now, when Herod had died, here we have a genitive absolute from teluteisantas. When Herod had died, uh, it's from teluteo. So when Herod had died, another participle, a genitive masculine singular. Uh, so when Herod had died, behold, the angel of the Lord, Phinetap, from Phino, is appearing, Kat Aner, by a dream to Yosef in Aegypto, to Joseph in Egypt, Legon, saying, Agerthes para beta paidion kaitain metera autu. That is, saying, arise. Agerthes is the aorist passive participle from agero, and take. Paralabe is from paralambano, an aorist imperative, second masculine singular from Paralambano. Take the child and his mother and go unto the land of Israel. From Paruamai, uh, and we're looking here at an imperative, a present middle imperative, second person singular. Go into the land of Israel, for the ones who are seeking the life of the child have died. Uh, Tethnekasin, the ones who are seeking have died. From Thnesco, perfect, indicative, active, third person, plural. So those who are seeking, hoi azeituntes is from zetao, to seek, present participle, nominative, masculine, plural, from zeteo, I should say. So the ones who are seeking the life of the child have died. Ha de agerthes, parelaven ta paidian kai tain metera autu kai aseothen ace gain Israel. And he, arising, took the child and his mother and entered into the land of Israel. Agerthes is a participle from agero, aorist passive participle, nominative masculine singular from agero. So he arising took from paralambano, the aorist indicative active third person singular, the child and his mother, and he went, assailed then the aorist indicative active, again third person singular from Eserkamai, into the land of Israel. Akusas dehate arke laas basilue tes Judaias ante tu patras autu Herodu, ephabethe ake apel thing. That is, and when he heard that Archelaus is reigning uh, of Judea instead of his father Herod, he was afraid to depart or to go there. Akusas is your aorist participle nominative masculine singular from akuo. When he heard that Archelaus was reigning or is reigning of Judea instead of his father Herod, he was afraid. The fabethe is from fabeo, aorist indicative passive third person singular, to go there or to depart there. From aperkamai, apelthane is your aorist active infinitive from aperkamai. But having been warned in a dream, rematistes is the aorist passive participle nominative masculine singular from klematidzo. It's interesting. Matthew uses a lot of these aorist passive participial forms. So having been warned by a dream, he departed. Anekoresin is from anakoreo, aorist indicative active third person singular, into the regions of Galilee. Kai elthon, katoi kesin, eis palin legamene Nazareth. And when he came, he sojourned or he dwelt in the city that is being called Nazareth, that is called Nazareth. When he came, Elthon from Erkamai, aorist participle, uh, present or aorist participle, nominative, masculine, singular from Erkamai. And when he came, he sojourned, Katoke center, he dwelt from Katoi Keo, aorist indicative active third person singular, in the city that is called Nazareth, hapos plerothe, in order that that which was spoken through the prophet might be fulfilled. Plerothe is the aorist passive subjunctive from plerao. You think of lutho, luthes, luthe, if you're using luo as a paradigm, that which was spoken might be fulfilled through the prophets. Hate Nazarios tetesetai. that he shall be called a Nazarene. From kaleo, future indicative, passive, third person singular from kaleo, that he shall be called. You think of luthesamai, luthese, luthesatai. And so this is play thesatai, the future indicative passive ending. It's interesting. It's sort of like, isn't it interesting that the Netzer was born in Nazarios, uh, in Nazareth, I should say, that he could be called a Nazarios. It's sort of like, it's interesting that the branch dwelt in Branchtown, was dwelt, I should say, in Nazareth, that he might be called a Nazareth. And we're going probably back to, at this point, to the Hebrew Bible in Isaiah 11, where Netzer is used, he shall be a branch, looking at Messiah. And so it's interesting that the Netzer was born in Nazareth. A play on the word Netzer here. It'd be like saying, isn't it interesting that the branch not was born, but dwelt in Branchtown. So the branch dwelt in Branchtown. That is, the Netzer dwelt in Nazareth, that he might be called then a Nazarios. So there's a play on the word Netzer here, no doubt, bringing the birth of Christ, or not the birth, but the living of Christ, or the dwelling in Nazareth, that he could be called a Nazarios, going back to a word play on Netzer from Isaiah chapter 11. So this is a great chapter, and we've seen a number of ways that Matthew has used the Old Testament. Out of Egypt have I called my son. Interesting. Israel is called out of Egypt. The final Israel is called out of Egypt, Jesus. There is the weeping of Rachel for what has happened from Herod's cruelty. Then we follow the return to Egypt, and we have the Netzer living in Nazarios, the Netzer living in Branchtown, or the branch living in Branchtown. Sort of a play on the word Netzer, I think, in the Greek, but going back to the Hebrew, showing that Jesus, who is the branch, lived in Nazareth, that he might be called a Nazarios. Interesting usages of the Old Testament.